How to gain power over any woman. Most men never understand a woman isn't drawn to your looks, your money, or your words. She's drawn to your presence. Not the man who speaks the loudest, but the one who stays calm while others break. Real power doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't explain. It just is. And she feels it instantly. If you want power over any woman, stop trying to control her. Master your breath, your mind, your energy. When you hold yourself fully, she can't look away. Calm command. Your breath reveals your weakness long before your words ever could. You don't need to speak for her to feel everything about you. A woman doesn't listen to your mouth first, she listens to your body. She listens to your rhythm. She listens to the way you breathe when she walks into the room. If your breath shortens, if your chest tightens, if your frame shifts from grounded to anxious, she already knows. You've already told her you're not in control. You don't need to say a thing because your nervous system already did. And once she feels that instability in you, she loses trust in you. It's not about judgment, it's biology. The feminine seeks grounding, not performance, not intensity, not excitement. Grounding. And if your energy flinches when she enters the room, you're not the anchor, you're the storm. This is what most men never train, not because they can't, but because they've never been taught. They learn to lift weights, to earn money, to chase attention, but they never learn to master the one thing that determines everything else, their nervous system. They never learn to breathe. They never learn to stay still when discomfort rises. They never learn to hold the feminine energy without needing to fix it, match it, or suppress it. And so they default to their patterns, tightening their shoulders, shifting their posture, avoiding her gaze, fidgeting, rambling, overthinking. These are not signs of nervousness. These are signs of lack of training. Your body is speaking louder than anything your voice could ever say. And when your body says, "I'm not safe in myself," she will never feel safe with you. A trained man is still, not because he's cold, not because he's calculating, but because he's regulated. His breath stays slow. His shoulders stay soft. His chest stays open. He observes. He receives. He listens not just to her words, but to her energy, her eyes, her rhythm. He does not rush to fill silence because he is not afraid of silence. He does not speak to be heard. He speaks to say something real. And when he doesn't have something real to say, he remains in presence. This is not a tactic. It's not part of a strategy. It's the natural byproduct of a man who has trained his system to remain calm under pressure, because the feminine is pressure, not in a negative way, but in an energetic way. The feminine will stir your energy. She will wake up your emotions, your desires, your instincts. If you are not grounded in your breath, you will react. If you are trained, you will remain. And this is why women trust trained men, not because of appearance, not because of words, but because of presence. Calm, grounded presence, the kind that doesn't flinch, the kind that doesn't seek approval, the kind that doesn't need to be impressive because it's already at peace. A man who can breathe through his body's reactions is a man who can hold space for more than himself. And that is what she feels. Safety, depth, containment, not control, containment. When your energy is no longer leaking in 1,000 directions, she feels drawn to you, not out of curiosity, but out of gravity. Because her nervous system feels your nervous system and says, "I can rest here." This kind of man is not common, because this kind of man is not made by chance. He is built through discipline, through silence, through repetition, through breathing when it's uncomfortable, through staying when every part of you wants to escape, through relaxing your chest when she tests you, through softening your jaw when you want to argue, through watching instead of reacting. This kind of training does not happen in public. It happens in solitude, in your room, on your mat, during your walk, every single day, one breath at a time. You don't earn respect by chasing her. You don't earn it by controlling her. You earn it by becoming the kind of man who no longer needs to be controlled by himself. That's what she feels. That's what she follows. And when you reach that point when your breath no longer shifts depending on who enters the room, your entire energy changes. And she feels that before you ever open your mouth. Dominant silence. Silence is dominance. Not the cold, withdrawn kind of silence. Not the insecure kind that masks fear of speaking, but the kind of silence that vibrates with certainty, with presence so full that no words are needed. The man who talks just to fill space is not in control. He is easing his own anxiety. He is trying to be liked, trying to perform, trying to maintain attention because he doesn't trust his stillness to hold it. She feels this, and she may smile, she may nod, but inside she knows this man does not lead. He follows the tension in the air, trying to manage it. He cannot hold space, so he fills it, and that, to a woman who knows herself, is not strength. That's noise. Now compare that to the man who can sit with silence and not shrink, who does not need to speak to be seen, who listens fully without rushing to respond. His silence is not empty, it is full, full of calm, full of energy, full of grounded awareness. This is the man she instinctively respects. She doesn't know why. She may not even be able to explain it, but her body feels it, because she can relax around him. He's not reacting. He's not seeking. He's not waiting for his turn to talk. He is fully present, fully there. And in a world where most men are chasing attention, chasing validation, chasing connection, presence becomes power, and silence becomes its sharpest form. The mistake many men make is believing that dominance is expressed through volume, through statements, through boldness. But true dominance, the kind that doesn't need to declare itself, lives in subtlety, in breath, in stillness, in how slowly you move, in how little you need. The man who owns the room is rarely the loudest. He's the one whose presence changes the rhythm of others. He speaks and people lean in, not because he demanded attention, but because his energy invited it, not forcefully, but inevitably. And when it comes to women, this law is even more precise. A woman may enjoy a man's charisma, his cleverness, his charm, but the man she follows, the one who stays in her nervous system long after the conversation ends, is the one who didn't flinch when silence arrived. He didn't rush to impress. He didn't rush to respond. He didn't rush, period. Your silence should speak louder than your words. It should tell her that you are rooted, that you're not here to chase, that your world is already full and you are simply choosing to invite her into it. You don't need to say, "I'm confident." You don't need to signal status or strength. Your posture, your eyes, your energy, they speak for you. You sit calmly. You look at her, not with hunger, not with need, but with presence, with patience. And in that moment, everything shifts, because she's used to men leaning forward, talking over themselves, selling their story. But you become the frame, and she becomes the expression inside it. This is the sacred masculine polarity, the man who contains and the woman who expands inside that containment. But this containment is not physical, it is energetic. You provide space, safety, depth, and when that space is real, she expresses herself more freely than she thought possible. She laughs more deeply. She speaks more vulnerably. She leans in, because she doesn't feel observed, she feels held. She doesn't feel analyzed, she feels understood. And all of this happens before a single sentence is spoken. But to reach this level of presence, you must train. You must become intimate with your own silence. You must sit in stillness long enough that it no longer scares you. You must breathe through the impulse to speak just to be seen. You must learn to hold your energy when you feel the urge to release it. This is what separates the untrained from the sovereign. The untrained man reacts. The sovereign man waits, watches, holds. She doesn't want words, she wants weight, the weight of your grounded energy, the strength of your stillness, the quietness of a man who has nothing to prove and therefore proves everything. And when you reach that place, you realize you don't need to speak to lead, you only need to be. Unshakable ground. Women test what they do not trust. This is not cruelty, it is instinct. It is the feminine's way of locating safety in a world full of appearances. Every time she challenges your frame, questions your words, shifts her tone, or throws a wave of emotional chaos your way, she's not trying to break you. She's trying to feel you. She's asking a silent, invisible question that most men never realize they're being asked. Are you grounded, or are you faking it? Most men are faking it. Their confidence is skin deep. Their calm is temporary. Their power is situational. It only works when everything goes their way. So when she throws the smallest test, a sarcastic remark, a cold look, a challenge to his authority, they crumble. They raise their voice. They defend themselves. They plead, explain, chase, or try to flip the script back onto her. But every one of those reactions proves her point. He is not grounded. His center is a performance. His masculinity is conditional, and she feels it. Maybe not consciously, but something in her tightens. Something in her pulls back, because if he cannot hold himself, he cannot hold her. The centered man is different. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't panic. He doesn't respond to every spike in her emotion with a spike of his own. He listens. He observes. He stays rooted, not out of detachment, not out of superiority, but out of discipline. His nervous system is trained. His breath remains deep. His body stays soft but strong. He has nothing to prove, not because he doesn't care, but because he already knows who he is. The test comes. The wind rises, and he stays planted. And in that stillness, in that immovable energy, something happens inside her. She softens. Not because he forced her, not because he controlled her, but because he gave her something rare: safety. Not safety in words, but in vibration. She doesn't trust the man who says, "You can trust me." She trusts the man whose presence says, "I trust myself." She trusts the man who remains when others retreat, who breathes when others react, who listens when others interrupt. And this trust doesn't build in one moment. It builds over time, through consistency, through challenge, through storms that reveal how deep your roots really go. Women don't test power, they test its foundation. They want to feel what you're built on. Are you composed because things are easy, or are you composed because you've trained through difficulty? When the test comes, and it will, the answer is revealed not by what you say, but by what you don't say. Not by what you do, but by how you hold your energy. The deeper your breath, the more relaxed your body. The slower your voice, the more clearly she hears the unspoken. I'm not going anywhere. I don't need to fix this moment. I don't need to win it. I'm already here. That is the kind of presence that melts tension, that invites truth, that leads without control. This isn't a game. This isn't a manipulation. This is training, real daily training. You must teach your system to breathe through discomfort, to watch your emotions rise without becoming them, to meet her fire without fear, to meet her sadness without shrinking. This is the invisible work, the kind of work that never trends but always transforms. Because the man who can stay rooted in her storm becomes the one she builds her temple next to, not because he asked her to, but because her soul feels safe in his gravity. Stop fearing the test. Expect it. Welcome it. Because it's not about her power, it's about your integrity. Every challenge is an invitation to deepen, to slow down, to return to breathe. And the man who does this, who trains for presence, not performance, becomes unshakable. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be real, still, and grounded. Never seek her validation, not because it's weak, but because it's empty. The moment your sense of worth depends on how she looks at you, speaks to you, responds to you, the moment your posture leans toward her approval, it's over. You've already handed over your center, and she will feel it. Not just in your words, but in your tone, in your gaze, in the subtle shift of your energy trying to pull her closer. And in that moment, something inside her withdraws, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. Because a man who is led by her reactions cannot lead himself. And if he cannot lead himself, he cannot be trusted. You don't chase her compliments. You don't adapt yourself just to win her approval. You don't contort your truth to make her comfortable. You don't abandon your path to accommodate her indecision. You stay in your truth, calmly, firmly, not aggressively, not stubbornly, but with full presence. You speak from that place. You move from that place. And if she aligns with it, she joins. If not, she leaves. And you don't stop her. You don't beg. You don't negotiate your self-worth in the face of her departure. You let her go, and you keep walking, because your path was never shaped by her emotions. It was shaped by your mission, and your mission doesn't bend for approval. Your mission doesn't detour for comfort. Your mission is not a reaction, it's a direction. This is where real masculine polarity lies, in the refusal to abandon the inner compass just to maintain the connection. When a woman senses that your energy is orbiting her, when she becomes the center of your decisions, your mood, your pace, your speech, she loses trust in you. Even if she doesn't say it, even if she smiles, even if she stays, deep down her respect contracts, because she doesn't want to be your mission. She wants to witness it. She wants to be pulled into the gravity of a man so committed to something greater that he doesn't need her but chooses her. And only when she feels the distinction that she is chosen, not chased, does she fully soften. Your value cannot live in her eyes. It cannot rise or fall based on her attention. That is too unstable. That is too external. If your sense of strength is built on her feedback, it will collapse the moment she withholds it. You must root yourself deeper, in purpose, in practice, in principle. These are not words. These are disciplines. Purpose gives you direction. Practice gives you confidence. Principle gives you structure. With those three in place, a woman's presence adds to your life, but it does not define it. And when she feels that, truly feels it in your stillness, in your silence, in the way you hold your gaze without needing hers, she relaxes. She opens, because finally she has met a man who doesn't need her to be okay for him to be whole. But this isn't built overnight. It's built one decision at a time, one boundary at a time, 1 hour of solitude at a time. You stop seeking her to validate what you have not yet earned internally. You stop adjusting your path every time her mood shifts. You stop asking, what do I need to say to make her stay? And start asking, what do I need to live so that I stay true? That is the shift. From external validation to internal authority. From approval seeking to self-trust. And that shift, though subtle, changes everything. Because the man who doesn't seek her validation becomes the one she most validates. Not because he asked for it, but because he never needed it. Women submit to direction, not noise, not volume, not pressure, not manipulation. Direction, clear, embodied, calm direction. And direction doesn't come from raising your voice, puffing your chest, or dominating space. It comes from alignment, from movement that reflects a man who knows where he's going. You don't need to control her when your life is already governed, when your time is respected, when your choices are sharp, when your habits are intentional. She feels this, not in your words, but in your rhythm. She listens to your life, not your lectures. You don't lead a woman by talking louder. You don't lead her by telling her you're a leader. You lead by moving with precision, with awareness, with presence that doesn't depend on her reactions to exist. A man who truly leads doesn't need to convince anyone. His walk says everything. The way he enters a room, the way he orders his day, the way he responds to emotion, these are the signs of whether or not his inner world is structured. And that's what she follows. Not charisma, not charm, direction, purpose that is active, not performed. You walk like a man who knows where he's going. You're not distracted. You're not stalling. You're not adjusting your pace for every voice around you. There's a subtle power in a man who moves through life with decisiveness, who turns his head slowly, who answers questions without rush, who doesn't fill silence with excuses. When your energy is rooted, she doesn't feel the need to push. She relaxes. And that's the very moment feminine trust begins to blossom, when she no longer feels like she has to carry the structure herself. When your structure surrounds her without controlling her. You act like your time is valuable, because it is. And if you don't act like it, no one else will. You don't waste hours. You don't chase people. You don't scroll through your life waiting for meaning to appear. A man who owns his time owns his future. And that energy is felt in every interaction. She feels it when you don't rush a reply. She feels it when you pause before you speak. She feels it when your attention is so present. It's as if the world slows down. You don't need to say, I'm busy or I'm important. You simply live like it. And when your life has order, your presence becomes irresistible. You live like your presence matters, not with arrogance, but with awareness. You walk like the ground beneath you recognizes you. You speak only when there's something real to say. You move in line with something larger than yourself. That's the energy women respond to, not the guy who has all the tricks, but the man whose presence makes them forget the noise. She feels safe around him. She feels her own feminine energy surface, not because he forces it, but because his masculine energy provides the container for it to unfold. That kind of space cannot be demanded. It must be earned, built, lived. When she sees that you carry structure in your life daily, silently, unshakably, she begins to soften. Not because you made her, but because your energy invites her. A woman cannot rest into chaos. She can't trust a man who doesn't trust himself. She can't surrender into empty promises, vague plans, or constant reaction. She needs to feel not here, feel that you can carry more than just your image, that you can carry her energy, her chaos, her trust, And the man who has built structure within himself becomes the man she offers herself to without hesitation. That is where trust is born, not from words, not from demands, but from direction, silent direction, consistent direction, direction that says, I know who I am, I know where I'm going, and I don't need to control anything to stay on course. That's the man she follows. The final truth is this: you don't need to gain power over any woman. That entire frame is broken. It comes from lack, from ego, from a place of insecurity disguised as dominance. Real men don't chase power over others, they return to the power within themselves. And when that happens, everything else shifts. Your voice lowers, your movements slow, your mind clears. You stop seeking control because you found command. You no longer need to be seen because you've already seen yourself. And that's when she notices you not as someone performing masculinity, but as someone who has become it. Power over a woman is not only unnecessary, it's ineffective. The masculine doesn't lead through force. It leads through gravity, presence, depth. Women don't follow because they're weak. They follow because they're built to move with energy that holds them, that contains them without restriction, that leads without needing to be worshipped. They follow because they're drawn to something deeper than talk. They're drawn to real strength, the kind you can't fake, the kind you can't mimic, the kind you can't pretend your way into. And real strength is always rooted in three things: spiritual stability, emotional discipline, and physical groundedness. Spiritual strength is not religion. It's not dogma. It's the invisible center you move from. It's your alignment with something higher than ego, a mission, a code, a reason beyond impulse. A man who has this isn't shaken by opinions. He isn't swayed by temptation. He doesn't drift through life adjusting himself to please the crowd. He moves from the inside out, and it's felt. His presence is heavier, calmer, sharper, and the woman who stands in front of him feels it. Not because he tells her, but because her body relaxes without permission. Emotional strength is the rarest form of power. Most men never master it. They either suppress everything until they explode, or they let emotion rule their decisions. But the man who has faced himself, who has walked through the fire of discomfort without flinching, without distraction, without running, that man becomes trustworthy. His stillness isn't performance. It's earned. He can hold chaos without adding to it. He can witness her storm without matching it. And because he doesn't react, he leads. Physical strength is not about aesthetics. It's about being present in your body. It's about honoring the structure you've been given, the way you breathe, the way you move, the way you stand when pressure rises. It's all communicating something. You don't need to be big. You don't need to be loud. You just need to be in control of your space. When you are, you signal safety without a word. And in the presence of that signal, the feminine opens. The world follows structure. Life depends on it. Nature reflects it. Your purpose demands it. And the feminine responds to it. She doesn't follow your charm. She doesn't follow your theories. She follows the man who embodies structure, who doesn't talk about his standards but lives them, who doesn't advertise his mission but walks in it, who doesn't negotiate with temptation but stays aligned even when no one is watching. And here's the shift. The moment you stop trying to gain power over her, the moment you stop obsessing over tactics, over scripts, over validation, and start doing the real work of becoming a man who walks with inner authority, she feels it. The world feels it. Doors open, eyes follow, not because you chased power, but because you reclaimed it. You came home to yourself. You stopped outsourcing strength, and you started cultivating it, hour by hour, breath by breath.